Hey guys, this is our first podcast that we're recording. We hope to make this a regular thing. The name of our podcast is Surviving Darkness. I'm Jenny, and this is...
I'm Heather.
And we're sisters who have gone through
Quite a bit of stuff in our 40-some years.
Yeah.
We are from Southern West Virginia. And just giving some information on what we're about. I have two grown sons. One's 22 and one's 20.
I have a little miracle baby that's 4 years old. Wasn't supposed to be here, but God had a plan, so...
And we just wanted to just share some experiences that we've gone through in our life in a way that may help other people. We just basically want people not to feel alone, because I know that there's things that we go through that other people would not believe that you could possibly have gone through. And during the time that we went through some of the things that we went through was during a time that if we would have mentioned it to anyone, we probably would have wound up in a psych ward. Yeah. So we have felt like we have kept our mouths shut and not really shared what all we have seen, all that we have been through, because of worrying about what people might say, what people might think. And I guess we've grown older and wiser and decided that when you go through something, you don't really keep it to yourself because you've gone through it to help others.
And we feel like there was a purpose for it. Like, we went through everything. Nothing came out a long time ago like it should, like we would have wanted it to. And so evidently God had a plan for us to go through everything that we did, and for, the truth and everything not to come out till years later, I guess, to kind of let us go through things and for us to show other people that there is a God and that He is the reason that we were able to make it through a lot of the things that we went through.
Right. And I think, too, is because it's taken us this many years to process.
Yeah.
There was so much that's happened over the years that we've had to come to terms with, like, what was real, what was not real, what we did to survive, and the fact that we may have lived in the same house, but we were divided.
Yes.
And none of us really talked about anything because we were basically informed that the other person didn't know anything and that nothing was going on with them. So we were a family divided, but living in the same house.
And going through the same hell, but we didn't know.
Right. And I'm the older sister. So what I went through, I was being told that I was going through it in order to protect the younger sister, which is Jenny. So it wasn't until we were adults that we put two and two together and found out that we were pretty much going through the same thing at different times, but we weren't able to unite together and help each other because we didn't know that the other was going through anything.
And we were told, if you say anything to anybody or even anybody in your house, then
things would get worse.
Yeah, things would get worse, and that you would pay.
So basically, without coming out and telling you what our podcast is about in the beginning, I think we sort of just went at it full force, and which is not the plan. But, sometimes things don't always go as planned. But we just wanted to let you know that the things that we're going to cover are like generational curses, suicide, suicidal ideations, molestation, addiction, demonic attacks, and how we combated those demonic attacks. So, I'm only 48, but all of those things are things that we've dealt with our whole lives. We have suicide that is very rampant in our family. We have addiction that is very rampant in our family. We have
attempted suicides.
Mm-hmm. We have molestation that has occurred generation after generation. And back, we know to like a grandfather that we never even met, but we know that at least it was there. But who knows before that when it actually began. So it's been affected in all the family, not just with Jenny and I. Yeah. So it's just something that we just want to put out there. It happens everywhere, but so many people don't want to talk about it. And it's taken years for us to not blame ourselves for what's happened. And I know that other people probably feel that somehow it's their fault. They did something to cause it. And they don't want to share it with anyone because of feeling the shame of it too. So we pretty much just want to share the things that we've gone through and let people know that you're not alone and you're not the only ones that have fought these things, and that you have someone in your corner that's been there too, that's not going to think that you're plumb crazy, who's not going to judge you, because we've been there, we've seen it, we've dealt with it. And if there's something we can do, even just sharing our story that can help even one person, that's our goal.
Yes. And we're at different points right now. Like, Heather started counseling a while back, and several years ago went to counseling, and is a little bit further in the process of being able to open up about things. I'm just newly there. So we both feel how other people are, but if you're kind of like me and you just started wanting, being able to deal with your feelings or whatever, then that's fine too. That we're still here, or wanting to let people know, where we are. And then, Heather she preaches, and she's been able to talk about things and open up about things a little bit more than I have. And so we're just, at different stages of things, but we're both just wanting to put this out there. So nobody, like Heather said, so nobody feels alone. And, we, like she said, if we would have told someone, well, there's, something evil around in our house, in 1980s, late 80s, early 90s, when a lot of this happened, then people would have just thought we were crazy, because paranormal stuff and things like that weren't prevalent then as they are now. They weren't brought out like it is now.
I don't feel like we had help.
No.
Because even speaking to people within a church, it was as if they believed in God, they believed in angels, but they didn't want to believe in the evil stuff that goes along with it. Those things are on this earth too.
Yes.
We battle against evil. We battle against things that aren't seen, but people don't want to talk about that stuff.
Yes.
They don't want to believe that there's anything that can cause the things that happen with us.
And if you can say that there's a heaven, and that if you don't go to heaven, then you're going to go to hell, then you have to realize that there's Satan that's in hell, and he has his helpers or whatever to torment people.
Right.
That's what they're here. That's what they're for.
But people don't want to see the dark side.
No, they don't.
They don't want to acknowledge that. I guess maybe to acknowledge it is it don't exist.
Yeah, right.
But whether you acknowledge it or not, it still exists.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I just sort of feel like at that point in our lives, it was life or death, honestly. Yes. If we spoke about it, because things just got so much worse when we tried to get help.
Yes.
So as I've gotten older and I've gotten more of a closer relationship with God, I've recognized who's got the strength and who doesn't. But at that time, I was so beat down and broken that I believed anything that anyone said, and I stayed beat down and broken. So I know that, it doesn't even have to be like a supernatural experience. People feel that way in abusive relationships, beat down and broken, and don't realize how beat down and broken you are until you're out of that atmosphere and can take a normal breath and be around a normal situation to realize how abnormal things are. Yeah. So we grew up dysfunctional. Like, the family was dysfunctional, but we didn't realize how dysfunctional it was until we were out of that situation. Yes. And could see, at 24, 25 years old with 2 college degrees, I had a dad who had me convinced that I couldn't even make it on my own. So that was another trick of the enemy to try to keep me where he wanted me, shy, quiet, reserved, feeling like I could never make it in life, just so that I could stay under that thumb and under control.
And in that situation, to not even want to get out of the house.
Right.
You're not going to make it if you leave out of this house, So, absolutely. Yes.
Right.
And it's, like you say, taken years, even after being moved out, to realize, hey, we can do this.
Right.
We are no longer in the situation. And after generations of things happening, it's not happening anymore. Like this is the end of it here. It's not going to be carried on. That's our
to our children. Yes.
That's our goal.
It may have happened before with parents and uncles and other cousins of the older generation, but it's going to stop in this generation because we're just not going to allow it. We're just not going to allow it anymore. Enough is enough of all the craziness.
So I guess, like, should we kind of like talk about the house? I mean, like, start there?
Yeah.
Want to do that?
Sure.
So, I mean, like,
as we said, we just started doing podcasts, so we're sort of trying to work our way in as to how we want to go about things. I guess the best way to start is just basically just talking about a house that we moved into. We had lived in a house, and then there was another house beside the house that we lived in that was empty. And it was a 2-story house. It was like an old gray house. But everybody talked about how they saw things in that house, how the curtains would move, and how they would see like a loaf of bread in the window and a jar of peanut butter. And then they would, like 5-10 minutes later, there would be nothing in that window, but no one lived there. Well, my dad had lost his job or switched jobs or something. So we were moving out of the white house that we lived in into the scary house. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember the first time that we went and looked at it, we had gone upstairs into one of the bedrooms, and there was 2 stuffed animals on the bed. And one of them was brown, and they were old and had these funny faces. But I felt like there was one that was like a black and white, was it like a panda?
Yeah, panda bear.
And it had like a tux shirt on. And I felt like it was watching me the whole time. And I was probably, I would say, about 9 years old at that point.
Probably, yeah.
So the lady who owned the house, I told her, I said, I feel like that stuffed animal's watching us. And she just chuckled, and she was like, well, I was going to give those to you and your sister. And I was like, well, I mean, what do? You say thank you and you take it. But I guess I'd sort of always had that eerie feeling before we even really moved in. Mm-hmm. And then there was just little things that would happen that we didn't think a whole lot of. I just can't even think of like examples prior to.
Like hearing like, are you talking about like going up, like hearing things,
like walking up the
stairs,
and then it was bothering my mom while she was sleeping, mm-hmm. and we knew the stories about that, and we knew there was something there, mm-hmm. but we just didn't know what. So after like all these things going on, these little things, my dad came up with this bright idea that he was going to let us kids talk to whatever ghost was in the house.
Like it would walk up the stairs, uh-huh. and we'd hear it come up the stairs, and it would stand at the end of our bed and just kind of look over us. Yes. And then it would walk out of our room and go straight into our brother's room.
Right.
And he would feel the covers come down.
And something got in the bed, mm-hmm. beside him. And so I had forgot about that one. Yeah. But so those were the things.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thought it was us getting in there, and he'd reach over.
And there was
nobody there. But the covers had come down and then come back up, and he'd felt the bed go down and everything. So these were, little things that had happened.
Right.
In the house.
Nothing traumatic at that point. So my dad decided that he was going to let us talk to whoever these ghosts are, find out who they were, like it was some kind of game. So he got a piece of plywood, and he made a homemade Ouija board. And we used a shot glass as the little thing that moved.
Planchette.
Yes, moved to the letters.
Mm-hmm.
So we found out real quick that is not the thing to do.
No.
Real fast that was not the thing to do. And it had a draw. Like, I would remember, even if no one else was around, I had to go upstairs and play with that board. Mm-hmm. It was an addiction almost. I mean, it it would draw me to it. Like, I needed to talk to these spirits, like, all the time. When I would go to school, it was like I had to get home and I had to mess with that Ouija board, and I had to talk to those people or those spirits.
We did it a lot.
Yes, those spirits that were there. But I don't know when or what happened, but I remember being upstairs in that bedroom where we would always use the Ouija board.
Yes.
And the shot glass wound up flying out the window and busting. So we weren't able to use that anymore. And I don't think we got anything else to use because things just started happening, like the attic door in the bedroom flying down. And it just kept getting more aggressive and more aggressive and more aggressive as time went on.
It was like when you were up in your room, I was sitting at the bottom of the stairs talking to Mom, and you yelled down, "Jenny, quit doing that." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And you said, "You're coming up the stairs and whispering my name." Well, I was literally sitting at the bottom of the stairs talking to Mom, and I never heard anything. And I was like 6 steps away. And Mom was like, "She's down here. She's not doing anything." So it was messing with you, saying your name and even letting you hear the steps so you would think it was me. And I wasn't doing anything. And I couldn't hear anything.
Right.
You know, and I'm right there, literally right there.
Right.
So things, like that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't even know when things started getting more aggressive. It was such a gradual thing that it started out with like little things. Like if one of my friends would come over or whatever after school, you would hear a door slam downstairs. But there was no one else in the house but us. So there was no one there to slam the door. Or there would be stuff like if someone would stay all night, they would go to get up to go to the bathroom. And the next day they'd be like, "Who was taking a shower at 4:00 this morning?" And we're like, nobody. Well, I tried to go to the bathroom, but there was somebody in the shower.
Yes.
There was nobody in the shower.
No.
So it would do that. Or
it made tea.
Yeah, it made tea for us. We had the cups out, and we're gonna we had the tea bags in, and we were just waiting to hear the whistle on the kettle, and it never whistled. And we walked in, and our tea was already steeping. The water was already in the cups. It wasn't hot, mind you, but it was in the cups.
Yes.
And then like people would stay all night, and we would sleep downstairs a lot because the upstairs was just very creepy. It was an old house with those attic bedrooms and with the slanted roof, and then it would have the attic door in the bedroom, and it was like a breeze would come through or something, which we found out later on it wasn't actually a breeze, but the door would just fly open, and it was one that wasn't on hinges, so it'd fly down,
and
it would make like a horrible sound. So
almost like a crawl space door.
Right. So we would stay downstairs in the living room, and the next day they would be like, "Why did you steal my pillow?" And we're like, "I didn't steal your pillow." Well, it was in the chair up above my head. My head like bounced off the floor because we would sleep in the floor. And they would be like, "My head just bounced off the floor. And I thought you stole my pillow. And I got up this morning and it's in the chair behind me." No one had taken the pillow. None of us had taken the pillow. So it was just little things like that is what it started out as. Just little things that people laughed at. "Oh, I went to Heather's house and there was something there that made our cups of tea."
Right.
Or "I went to Heather's house and something stole my pillows."
And then you and another friend were on the bed and you knocked on the wall.
Oh, yes. My cousin. Yeah, we did the whole dun 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 on one side of the wall. And then on the other side, it said dun dun. So I looked at her and I said, "Did you do that?" And she looked at me and she said, "No, did you?" So we took those steps down those steps, probably three or four, and probably skipped the last 5.
Yes.
And I don't think we ever slept upstairs after that. Yeah, it was scary. It was just little things like that that would seem like it's harmless.
Yes.
That's how things would start out. And then gradually it just got worse.
When we were my cousin, they lived with us for a while, and I'd say she and I were in about 2nd grade, and she and I were upstairs, and the bedroom stairs, one bedroom had the stairs that went straight down into the kitchen, and then came straight up into the bedroom. And she and I were at the top of the stairs getting ready to go down to the bottom of the steps. And we looked down at the bottom of the stairs, and there was this man standing there. And like to this day, it's still hard to like picture and think about. But he had his head down to where you couldn't see his eyes. And he had on bibbed overalls, blue jean bibbed overalls, red and black flannel shirt, and a straw hat. And as soon as he lifted his head up to look at us, he had red eyes. And we both were absolutely terrified. And we took off down the stairs, and it just left. And our moms were like, we know that you're not making this up, because we were absolutely terrified. Our stories were exactly the same of this. And then like 20 years later, we hadn't hardly talked about it at all. And me and my cousin were at her house with her husband, and we were talking about it again, and our stories were still the exact same way. We saw the exact same thing. After 20 years, if it was a lie, somebody's story would have changed. And it never did. And both of us, as soon as we started talking about it, we were shaking and everything. 20 some years later.
Is that the same one that you all saw? Is that the same
Yes.
entity that you all saw when I was in the living room reading the Bible, and you all were outside and coming up the steps? The way the house was made, the stairs from outside, you walked up the stairs, and then you were into the kitchen, and then you could see straight up the stairs to the bedrooms.
Yes.
So the same thing that she was describing earlier with the flannel and all, was coming down the steps from upstairs from the bedrooms, and they were going to come in the house. Well, they saw it, and when they would take a step down or back, it would take a step down.
Yeah.
And when they would take a step up, it would step back up the steps. So finally, I don't know which one of you all got the nerve up to come in the house and holler at me.
Because
Because y'all were like, Heather, get out of the house.
It was our neighbor and our cousin that saw it.
Yes.
And when she came around the corner and was, telling me what was going on, I ran in
and
said, you have to get out of here.
I thought you were standing there with them.
And you were reading your Bible at that
I was,
time.
and I never read the Bible in the house again. I would go out on the front steps because I was scared to death to read the Bible in the house, because I didn't know if it was coming after me for reading the Bible or what was going on. But yeah, that was a very scary time. Yeah. So after that, I was on the front steps outside the house where people could see me. Mm-hmm. And I would read the Bible.
Yes.
I was not going to stay in the house and read it. Mm-mm. Not by myself.
Mm-mm. And it was like you could just feel something there all the time. Mm-hmm. I would sit in the living room and play solitaire a lot and listen, because like you said, we had the upstairs closed off a lot of times.
And the animals always had issues. Like they would be knocked off the back of the couch.
I forgot.
Or they would just start meowing, the cats would. And there was nothing that we could see that was there. Mm-mm. But they didn't like whatever was in that house. And the layout of the house was just an old house. And it was like you went from the kitchen, it went in a circle. Mm-hmm. But it had like this dining room. And my cousin and I were just talking about that house the other day. That dining room was so dark.
All the time.
And so scary to walk through. But you had to walk through the dining room to get to the living room. Mm-hmm. And in order to, like when you came in from the front door or back door, the only door that we ever really used, the bathroom was to the left and you were in the kitchen.
Yes.
So you had to go from the kitchen to the dining room to get into the living room. So in order to get to the bathroom, you had to come back through that dining room, into the kitchen, into the bathroom. And that was the scariest thing for me, just going from the living room to the bathroom, because I didn't know if something was going to grab me on the way. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there were times
and we wouldn't go around the other way because that was
the bedroom. Yeah. Mom and Dad's bedroom.
And you just didn't go in their bedroom.
You didn't go in Mom and Dad's bedroom. But like there was one night I came through there, and I mean, we have good reason. Not only was the room dark and scary, but there was a lot of stuff that happened in there. Mm-hmm. Like I came through one day and all the chairs were stacked up in a pyramid on the dining room table. So, I mean, it was a very active room.
Yes.
So there was reason, and it had the buck stove in there.
Yeah.
It was like you sort of had to walk around the buck stove. It was just scary. You didn't know if you were going to get knocked into the buck stove and get burned. You didn't know what was in the room, and it was so dark.
Yeah.
And I don't
Which
know.
makes no sense because it had a window and then the screen and porch had all the windows.
Yeah, it had the sun, like the sun porch.
Right beside
So
it.
it shouldn't have been that dark.
And there was
should've-
only like one tree there. you
Yes.
know? I mean, so it should've-
Yes. Yes, that was one of the scariest rooms
And none
in the
of
whole
us
house.
wanted to go on the sun porch at all.
No, the sun porch was very scary, and it was just added onto the house.
Yep. And like when our cousins lived with us, they slept out there, and they didn't even want to sleep out there. Nobody wanted to sleep out there.
No, because all the boys, my aunt and uncle had 5 kids, so they all lived with us. So my aunt and uncle stayed in the bedroom upstairs, like us girls, all 4 of us girls stayed in the one room at the top of the steps, and my aunt and uncle stayed in the room attached to that one pretty much. You just had to walk through our room to get to the other room. And all 4 of the boys was it 4? Yes.
Yeah, 4.
They would be out. It was us 4 girls upstairs in the one bed, and then the 4 boys were on the sun porch. And yeah, they did not like it.
No. It was like every night it was a fight. But we had, that's where it had to be because that's the only way you had room for everybody.
Right. And it would cause chaos with everything, everybody. It was just chaotic constantly.
And Mom was laying in bed one night and heard and saw a shadow go up the stairs to our bedrooms. So she assumed it was one of us. And so it was about time for her to get up and get us up for school. And she said immediately she went ahead and got up, came up the stairs, thinking one of us had just gotten out of bed and come downstairs. And she said she could tell that there was no way, like we had not just gotten up. We were all dead asleep. There was no way that we had just gotten up. But that shadow had gone up the stairs and she'd seen it and heard the footsteps, So then you had the napkin holder thrown at you? Paper towel holder thrown at you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just little things, pretty much, that weren't as harmful as some of the other things that we went through. But yes, I was laying on the couch trying to sleep, which was a rarity that we ever got to sleep. And I guess I wasn't supposed to be sleeping that night either. But there was a box at the end of that couch. So the first thing that happened was it threw a walnut from the dining room and hit that box and woke me up. And then no sooner than I woke up from that, the napkin holder, it was a plastic napkin holder, came and hit that box. And then it fell down onto the mattress that was on the floor, because I was laying on the couch and we had that mattress on the floor below us. It landed on the mattress and was perfectly fine. And then like probably 5 seconds later, it just broke in 2. So it didn't break from the flying through the house and hitting the box or landing on a mattress.
Right.
It sat there for seconds and then it broke in 2. So, I mean, it was definitely not from the throw.
Right. Yes.
So it was just things like that were used to scare us as scare tactics.
Yeah. Yes. And then it slowly got...
Yeah, it got worse as we got a little older. Teenage years, it got worse. But I mean, right now we'll just talk about like leading up to some of the things, just a taste of what all we've gone through.
So we talked about that, and then and we didn't realize, just kind of giving a little history, we didn't realize there was so much in our family either, like so much evil.
It's amazing how when one person starts opening up and talking about stuff, how much history and other people start opening up and telling you things. Well, this happened to me and that happened to me, and it's crazy all the things that you start hearing because people get comfortable enough to talk about it.
Yes. And unfortunately, we have a member of our family who is in jail now for things that happened.
Things that happened to him, and he did this exact same things to someone else. And
I say unfortunately for the victims, you know what I mean?
Right.
And for his circumstance too, the things that he went through also.
Right.
And, he was just the one in the family that got caught.
Exactly.
So many.
There was so many
yeah.
of them that should have been where he is today.
Yes, and he, owns up to this and says,
I messed up.
Yes, I did, and
but
this
he
is
also,
where I'm supposed to be.
He also said, this was a norm for him. He
Yeah.
thought this is what everybody did, which I don't think as an adult that you can really use that as an excuse.
Right.
But it sort of explains the thought process of people who go through traumatic events.
Yes. Yes.
You don't realize
that it's not normal.
that it's not a norm.
No.
But just like I said, living in a dysfunctional house, we didn't realize how dysfunctional it was because that was our norm.
Yes.
Until you get out and you're like, wait, there wasn't nothing normal about that. No. And that those things, they carry on and carry on. Broken relationships. Jenny's been divorced once. I've been divorced twice. Mm-hmm. And it's taken time just to figure out who we are.
Yes.
And you carry those things into relationships, and sometimes we attract the wrong people, and we say, I will never marry someone like that. And then we marry someone just like that. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like those evil forces bring the evil people to you. Mm-hmm. That's the way it feels. And that's what we've talked to other family members. And it's like, if they're an evil person or have anything evil about them, we're a magnet.
Yes. Like several family friends we've realized have been horrible people that we don't want anything to do with now, but they were always around.
Right.
Right. And hearing some of the stuff that they've done, you're like, oh my gosh, that's disgusting. That's sick. How could you do that? But we were in similar circumstances. Well, we were in the middle of all of that too.
Right.
And we knew it was wrong. It wasn't supposed to happen. But at the same time, you're just like, well, I see how it happens. I mean, like, it doesn't excuse it. I'm not trying to say that by any means, but like it's like we're talking about, like the generational curses, like things like that. That like their dad did it,
right?
And so they did the same thing, and so that's kind of like.
And there comes a time when you got to say that ain't right, and we're just not going to do it anymore. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. No. Somebody has to eventually open their eyes and say, everything that happened, just because your parents did it, just because your parents said it was okay, doesn't mean it's okay.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And that everybody out there that says they're for you are not always for you.
Mm-mm. No.
They're just waiting for a downfall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we've learned that keep your circle small.
Yes.
I mean, you and Mom are the ones that I talk to the most. You're the two people that I really trust.
I have a lot of people I talk to.
Yes, a lot of acquaintances.
I do. And I have a lot of friends that I have, that I love dearly, but there are not a lot of people who know everything, because there's very few that I trust enough to say anything like that to. Like,
and then we're doing a podcast and telling everybody.
Yeah, we are. That's exactly right. Yes. Yes.
We're just going to do a podcast and put it all out there. We're not going to take baby steps. We're just going to jump right in.
Well, we had a ministry in 2013. And we tried kind of telling things that way too, along with preaching. And I sing, so ministering by song, and Heather was preaching. It wasn't the time. It just was not. We weren't getting things out like we should. Like we felt that would help people. Yes.
Right.
Yes, right. Definitely. We want God's word out there. There's no, ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's what we want. Yes. But at the same time, we feel like there's so much more that we could talk about and, just inform other people and let them, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like, just know that they're not alone, like we've said in the beginning, you know. So our family has dealt with mental issues,
Definitely. Depression, anxiety.
Yeah, bipolar disorder with several people in our family, And so, if you're a strong Christian, a lot of times they're like, well, you shouldn't take medication for that because, that makes you weak. That lets the devil mess with your mind. Well, when your mind is already like it is, the devil's already playing in there
Right.
and doing what he wants,
Right.
and making you become addicted to beer, to alcohol, to drugs, whatever it is.
Right.
Because you don't have the right
chemicals in your brain.
Yes. And
that those medications balance out.
Yes. Yes.
So instead of looking at someone medically,
yes.
they look at them psychologically and don't take into account that sometimes there's just chemical imbalances in the brain that only medication can help.
And so our grandfather, he had mental issues.
He had mental issues.
He did. And
he was also in World War II and had what is PTSD now, but they called it shell shock at that time. He was an alcoholic.
Got a young girl pregnant.
Yes.
She was 16 years old.
And at that time, it was like sort of, it wasn't that big of a deal, but the age difference, because I think he was maybe in his 40s.
I was thinking
and she was like
40.
15, 16.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. So there was that
it's
happened.
Not normal.
Right. It's just not.
No, a 40-year-old man should not be
with,
attracted
to a kid.
Yeah, to a kid. Exactly. Yes.
Right.
And so, he had mental issues, and ultimately he
committed suicide.
And then so they had 3 kids, my dad, my uncle, and my aunt. And so their mom had already passed away.
Right.
And so then their dad passed away. So then here they were, the 3 of them were shuffled around from family to family to family, not in foster care, but, to different family members. And the ones that they ultimately ended up with
weren't the best environment for anyone.
It was pure hell. Because the mother, if you will, in that situation, she
had mental issues herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And was just...
So it's a recipe for disaster.
Yes. Yes.
All the way around.
Yes.
So, we've dealt with,
and they were abused, so
right?
For
which
years.
Dad was 9 when his mom died, 12 when his dad died.
Yes. And
so
he was the oldest.
Yes, and he was the oldest, and he didn't really have parents from 12 up. So they were very close, and it was later on. I guess I was 17 or so when they found the half brother.
Yes.
Of the one that belonged to the woman that
had gotten pregnant.
That he had gotten pregnant at 15 or whatever. But I think I just took a little sidebar there. Let me get back on track. Let me reel myself back in as to where I was going with that. But I guess what I was saying was my dad really didn't have the structure or the know-how to be a parent.
Right.
I guess he tried the best he could, but
from what they've said, their mom was
a wonderful woman.
Wonderful.
Right.
But she passed away so early.
And
then, from our dad being the oldest at 12, the other ones were probably like 10 and 9, somewhere along in there. And the ones who actually would have been where they would have been raised in a better environment had other kids, and they just weren't able to take them there. And so they ended up at the worst place.
Right.
In my opinion, the worst place that they ever could have gone.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. And during those teenage years, you're pretty malleable, and you learn a whole lot during those years that, sometimes you might not need to know some of the stuff that they learned.
Yes.
But anyway, we didn't know our grandfather at all because, my dad was 12.
Right.
But we've also had other people in the family who have committed suicide. We've had lots of family members who have attempted suicide. So that's another thing within our family that we feel like we've got to fight against, is that spirit that wants to take people out.
Yes, yes.
Our brother committed suicide in 2011, and that was a major devastation for our family. And then we've had a brother-in-law that committed suicide, and I had an additional brother-in-law that committed suicide. So Jenny's had a brother and a brother-in-law. I've had 2 brother-in-laws and a brother. And we've had cousins. Mm-hmm. And it's another thing that the enemy has thrown at this family.
And it's almost like, this is terrible to say, but it's almost like when you hear, well, they tried to kill themselves. It's like, okay. You know, I mean, like, sometimes you, not that it's good, but you kind of get used to hearing it because, and you don't want that for them by any means, you know.
I still get mad.
Yeah, yes.
I get mad.
Yeah.
I was like, who does the devil think he is coming at my family like that?
Right, yes.
And
it's been young. I mean, like, young ones,
yes.
You know, like, what, 13?
When they've tried?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so it's crazy.
Right.
You know, I mean, and so the parents were not stable. They were fighting their own addictions.
Right.
And so therefore, you know, again, it kind of trickles down. And then that kid, you know, doesn't feel anything or feels left out or whatever. And so, you know, the devil's like, well, you know, you don't, nobody cares about you. You know, your parents don't care. They're too busy doing their own thing. So you should, you know, you shouldn't even be here. They don't even want you, you know.
Right.
So nobody wants you in this world.
It's that,
you know?
Battlefield
Yes,
of the mind.
it is. Mm-hmm. It is. Yes.
That's where he gets you. He comes into your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely where he'll get you.
And Heather and I both have felt at some point that we would not hurt ourselves like I don't have the mindset to kill myself.
Right. Right.
But if I was driving down the road, was in a horrible accident and died, I'd be okay with it.
We have been during our fight.
Yes.
I mean, now it's not like I don't feel that I'm there now.
No.
But during the fight for our lives, it was like that would have been a relief.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And times that I have like stood in the mirror and just wanted to take a razor blade and cut my face all to pieces, because it's like if I was ugly, maybe people would leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And I even self-sabotaged when I was a teenager, like 18, 19, eating like fried potatoes at night, macaroni and cheese at night. I wanted to get fat because then I wouldn't be attractive and people would leave me alone.
Yes.
So it's those things in your head that, I mean, that didn't change the situation at all.
Mm-mm. No.
But sometimes it's those things that you think, well, if I do this or if I do that or if this happens, that's the only way I'm going to get any peace. Mm-hmm. And then we found out that was all wrong. Only thing I did was got fat and had trouble getting that weight off.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Only thing I did was develop bad eating habits.
Me too.
Learned real quick. Fried potatoes and macaroni and cheese at night aren't the way to go.
Right. Exactly.
That is not a good diet.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't want to go too far. The first episode. Or the first time. So, I mean, those are just some things that we're going to discuss is like the sexual abuse, the demonic attacks, how we overcame some of those demonic attacks, the suicide, and how we've dealt with the loss of so many people, and how we've dealt with and tried to battle against the forces that cause other family members to want to harm themselves. And how we just want to stop those things that keep just, every generation just keeps showing up. Yes. And every time we think, oh, maybe we're good with that one. Maybe we've beat that one. It just comes right back with someone else.
Yes.
So, yeah, I guess we'll maybe just leave it at that for this one. Mm-hmm. And just pray and think about it, and hopefully we've touched someone enough that they feel maybe that they're not alone. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is our goal.
Yes.
We want people to realize you're not alone, and the crazy things that happen aren't always in your mind. Right. They're real. They exist. And you're not the only one out there that's battling. So.
And you're not crazy.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're not.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be debatable, but no.
Sometimes. But I think that's all of us, you
right.
know. So.
Right.
But yeah, that there are things that happen and that are unexplainable, and you feel like no one would ever believe me if I said that, or, you know, no one's ever going to help me out of that situation because nobody's ever been in this situation. You know, nobody's ever had.
I think it just comes to a time when you just quit caring.
Yeah.
What other people thought.
Yeah.
And that's what we were raised was always on. What would people think?
Yes.
What would people think? What would people think? And that's all. And the whole, what if this happened? And what if that happened? To the point that I was like, well, what if the sky fell?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody knows what is going to happen, what is going to happen in the future. So all these pressures put on you. What if this? What if that? And it's more things just to cause anxiety.
Yes.
And fear. What if this could have happened? What if that could have happened? What if this? What if that? So, yeah, I mean, it's overwhelming.
Like I think to myself sometimes that what if this would have happened? Or what if something, you know, all of the things that happened to us, what if they would have came out, you know, 10 years before we moved out or whatever? You know, how would things have been different? How different would our lives have been if we might have had a normal teenage years, you know, our normal teenage years. But at the same time, that wasn't meant to be.
No. And we've kept our mouth shut for so many years and not really shared.
Yeah.
And I really feel that when you go through something, you don't go through it just to keep it to yourself. Yes. You go through it to help others overcome that same situation or a similar situation.
And our mom has struggled with things, you know, and said, I just didn't know. If I did, I would have changed things. And we've said, if it was meant to come out, if there was a reason for it to have lasted as long as it did, for the times when we reached out for help, that nothing happened.
Right.
So there was a reason that it went on for as long as it did. There's a reason now for us to talk about it.
Right.
You know, and that's what we're trying to do.
For whatever reason, we're just going with what we have had placed on our hearts to do. Mm-hmm. We're going to be obedient and do what we feel we've been chosen to do. Yes. We've been chosen to do this for whatever reason, and we're just going to go with it, and we're going to trust and believe that it's going to help somebody. Mm-hmm. And it might even be us that it's helping because we're able to talk and get things out, and might just be the therapy that we need also.
Yes.
But I believe that it's going to help someone else too, who is in a position that they never thought they could ever be in or ever get out of.
I feel like every time we do it, like we'll kind of talk about, you know, one topic for that day, you know, whether it be like suicide and kind of talk, well, which we touched on that a lot today, and who it affected, and, you know, who it was in our family and things like that. But, you know, each time kind of tackle a topic, you know, and talk about how it affected everything with us and what led up to that
decision for people.
Yes.
The things that they had battled and the things that they had gone through that led up to those decisions.
And there are other family members too who might join us too to talk about things that they go through or have gone through, you know, and
those that we've gone in and prayed with and helped with the things that they were going through.
Yes.
So we'll leave like an email address if you want to contact us and let us know. I mean, it doesn't matter your beliefs, whether you believe in God, whether you don't believe in God. We'll still talk to you. No, we're not here to judge. We're not here to preach to you and tell you, oh no, you got to do this and you got to do that. We're here to listen and maybe talk you through things and help you understand maybe some of the things that you're going through with our experience. Yes. We're not experts on anything. We're not taught on anything in particular. We haven't had any kind of education on any of this. We're not like some kind of paranormal investigators.
Right.
We're not
Demonologists,
we're
nothing
not
like that.
into all that. We just want to help.
We know God.
Yes.
And we know what he's capable of doing, and we know what evil is capable of doing. We've
Right.
seen it. We have
We've seen
felt it
those.
firsthand, and so that's where we are,
Right.
know, because we do have a strong belief in God. And you know what, even if you don't, like you said, even if you don't believe that, you can't talk to us.
Right.
We're not going to preach to you.
No.
We're here
Or
to
tell
help.
you that you're crazy.
Yes.
Because that was the one thing that we were always afraid of.
Yes.
We just want to be able to say, this is what we did in that circumstance. This is how we got through it. This is how we stayed strong, because I can't say that I leaned on you and you leaned on me during all that, because we were divided.
Yes.
So that's our main goal, is just to open up and share and help whoever we can possibly help. So we'll just leave an email at the end of this to where you can contact us with anything, any questions, anything we can possibly help with, and we'll just touch on various subjects as we go. So you all have a wonderful evening.
And again, this is Surviving Darkness is the name of our show. This is Heather and Jenny, so hopefully we'll catch you next time.